Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Time for the latest episode of the Mulliner and Musgrove Show with me, Andrew Musgrove, and him, Sam Mulliner. Welcome, Sam, back to the podcast. You well?
Yeah, how was your holiday? Because everything was so bright and rosy and chipper, but you had to ruin it by using the word imminent, of course, and then you swanned off on your jollies, and everything has turned into liquid brown ever since.
I will not run away from what I said regarding James Trafford and that the deal was imminent, because it was
No,
imminent.
TK.
Was that? I thought it was James Trafford. Well, that was imminent as well. It was all imminent. And within a click of a finger, it changed. Ekitike looked like it was going to happen. Newcastle United were confident. And then we had the whole Liverpool, Isak, and that's still rumbling on. I'll get your opinion in a moment on that. And then James Trafford. That looked like it was done. Newcastle had the bid, accepted the player wanted to come, and City had this wonderful clause, which I'm really disappointed Newcastle didn't put in for Elliot Anderson the same clause, because that would have been wonderful, wouldn't it? However, City had it in for Trafford, and he's off to Man City, and Newcastle now back to the drawing board. And that is the main premise of this episode, ladies and gents. It's all about Aaron Ramsdale. And it's fair to say me and Sam agree that this signing isn't quite for us, and we'll get into it in a moment. But Sam, first off, where are you? Because you're not in your lovely abode. You are down in Matt Ritchie land, right?
Well, yeah, but I believe they're in the process of selling Richie, which I don't know why. Yeah, I'm in Portsmouth at the moment. It is Tuesday afternoon as we speak. I'm presenting and commentating on the Motor Starts live and free on Pluto TV. Download the app now. Stream now, pay never. Yeah, so I've got one more day here. So yeah, I'm in the South Sea area of Pompey.
Having fun?
I am. I'm not going to lie to you. I do miss my wife and children. It's probably the longest I've ever been away from them. But I'm home after work. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am absolutely loving the work, and I absolutely adore what I do. I'm having great fun commentating alongside former world champion Scott Mitchell, who's an absolute diamond. But yeah, it's my last day working tomorrow, so I'll be home tomorrow evening. And yeah, I've got a day off this Sunday, but I can't complain. Things are going great.
We're very happy to hear that. We've got a lot to talk about, as I've mentioned there. It is all about Aaron Ramsdale. We've talked about Nick Pope. But first off, Alexander Isak, the saga that it kind of felt inevitable, maybe not this summer, but perhaps next summer to come, maybe a little bit sooner than most expected. But it has arrived at Newcastle United's door. Sam, what are your thoughts on Alexander Isak's future at Newcastle United?
I just hate it. I hate Liverpool Football Club. I hate Michael Edwards, the whole situation. Clearly unsettling the player. It's been a ploy, in my opinion, from the start. This is what they do, unsettling players. Look, Isak's not put in a transfer request as of yet, as things stand at whatever time it is on Tuesday afternoon. Exploring other options, fine, but then put a bid in. So there are no other options at the moment. If they can't stump up the 150 million, which they may be able to do once the Diaz sale goes through, then that starts a conversation. If they're going to try and lowball us at 120 or whatever, then there's no conversation to be had. So I don't know which way it's going to go. I hope he stays. I know I fully comprehend that no one player is bigger than the club, and I completely agree. But the way this transfer window is turning out, it was supposed to be a dream window, and it's turning into a nightmare.
I mean, it sounds like there's a way back for him at Newcastle United, in your opinion, then?
Of course there is. Absolutely.
I don't agree. I mean, look, he comes back and he plays for Newcastle United and scores goals. I will love it. I'll support him all the way. But there'll just be that kind of doubt that sits with me that it's not where he wants to be, and he's here because Newcastle couldn't thrash out a deal to sell him, or Liverpool couldn't get the deal on the table. But of course, if he comes back and scores, then we'll all forget about this brief blip in his career at Newcastle United. But wanted to watch there. I think, for what it's worth, I think he will be a Liverpool player come the end of the window.
I
And
hate
where that
that.
leaves Newcastle.
It'd break my heart. I'd rather wait 12 months and then sell him to, I don't know, Barcelona or someone like that. And then he'd probably go with our blessing, but I just can't stand Liverpool.
Well, they are obviously in a position to offer perhaps a more guaranteed, well, nothing's guaranteed, but more of a chance to win the Premier League or Champions League. And I don't begrudge the player that sort of ambition and desire and want. It just sits a little bit off
Yeah.
with me that it's happened so close to the season beginning and leave Newcastle United scrapping around for not just one striker, but two. But Sam, if they manage to get in Benjamin Sesko and Johan Wissa, and then obviously sell Isak, would that soften the blow of losing Isak?
Well, I know that's because that's by no means guaranteed whatsoever, the way things are going. And I think the club have to take some responsibility as well. I was asked by Sky last week about the same situation whilst you were sunning yourself. And look, I'll sort of repeat what I said, that the board have to take a look at themselves. That gap between Eddie Howe and Yasser Al Rumayyan, there's some serious frailties there. And whether it been Paul Mitchell, who's now out of the equation, he's kind of ruffled everyone's feathers, including Isak's. How a contract offer hasn't found his way to Isak. You can't have a world class player in your squad and not pay him world class money. That's the reality of football. So the club do have to look at themselves in that sense as well. Obviously, Darren Eales has been outgoing for 12 months. He's an ill man. We wish him well with his battle with illness, but should he really be still working full time? Because it's all so all encompassing, isn't it? I have sympathy with Eales. We should have had his replacement there way before now, and the same with the whole Paul Mitchell mess as well. So the club have to have responsibility to take as well. I think there still is a way that Isak stays, and a new contract offer is there to be had to make him the highest ever player in the club's history, which he rightly deserves. But the way things are going, that won't happen. And you might be right; he could be a Liverpool player, which would be utterly heartbreaking.
Just on the contract, now reports suggest that he wants £300,000 a week, and I spoke about this on the Monday show that I just don't think Newcastle United would do that, even if they were able to make the numbers work. I don't think they would offer him that, because then what you get is the likes of Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton, etc., looking at that and thinking, well, wait there, I'm also a key player here. I want my wage to be boosted up towards that level. And Newcastle United just not been sensible. I mean, we don't know what the books look like. We don't know what Newcastle United can afford to go to, etc., etc. But I can have some understanding from where Paul Mitchell was coming from, if indeed that was Isak's wage demands. And I'm not saying, look, he doesn't deserve to be paid more than he's on right now, but if we're talking £250,000, £300,000 a week, I think that takes Newcastle United into a dangerous territory, not just with the numbers, but with the other stars as well.
You're negotiating a salary, so that's his starting point. There's a negotiation to be had. Just because he wants 300 grand a week doesn't mean he's going to get that. So you sit down with him and come to an arrangement with him and his representatives. Just because he wants 300k doesn't mean he's going to get it, and doesn't mean he won't be content with having less than that. This is the nature of football. So look, it's not the be all and end all just because he wants that, and that's it. And the same goes with the fee Newcastle want for him. It's a real crappy situation, whichever way you put it, and the resolve is being tested like we knew we would, but probably not to this extent. You're right in what you said at the top of the show. I was probably expecting this next summer.
Yeah, me too. And let us know in the comments your thoughts on Alexander Isak. Like I say, one to watch, and hopefully this saga gets sorted one way or the other as soon as possible. Right, on to the main topic of today's show. Well, actually, before that, just briefly, Sam, give me your thoughts on Newcastle United's new green away kit that was released today. It's said to be in tribute to the Tyne Bridge, of course, probably the most famous bridge that spans the River Tyne here in Newcastle. It is green. It's then got kind of arch-like shapes across the entirety of the shirt, with white stripes up the shoulders, white collar with a green line running through the middle of it. I think the collar is probably the best bit about it, in my opinion. Sam, what do you make of it? Are you a fan?
It's fine. I mean, it didn't. I mean, when I first saw it, I didn't think, "Oh, Time Bridge, lovely." It didn't scream bridge. I think it's the weakest out of the three. The other two I do now own. You'll be pleased to hear. But again, it's not going to appease fans in any way, shape, or form, because there's been three kind of pieces of merch, kit, whatever launches since the Alanga signing. They've launched the new trainers as well, haven't they? Which it's a good job you sat down, because I'm going to shock you. I think they're vile.
Wow. I mean, usually you're all over any piece of merch from Newcastle
I mean,
United.
I've got the trainers. They were live on Pluto TV today and yesterday, from last season, of course, because I think there was they were quite understated, and some really nice. They were just a nice pair of gazelles, weren't they? But the Sambas, I think they look like golf shoes.
Well, let us know in the comments if you're going to purchase these shoes. If you haven't seen them, head over to the store on the club's website and you can see what Sam is talking about. And
I
let
mean,
us know
nothing
your
against
thoughts.
you if you want to buy the trainers. I hold nothing against it. I'll see you on the first tee.
Let us know your thoughts on the new green away kit. Right, come on then, Sam. Goalkeepers union and all that. Aaron Ramsdale to Newcastle United. Initial thoughts before we get into the deep of it.
I just underwhelmed. Does he improve the squad? Yeah, he probably does. Yeah. Obviously, it'd probably see Dubravka on his way. Um, is there a competitive element to that between Ramsdale and Pope? Yeah, probably. Is there much between them? No, not really. I mean, Pope's distribution in pre-season alone has been just appalling. Um, I don't think Ramsdale is the answer. I'm kind of relatively pleased to hear we have it's initially going to be a loan deal with an option to buy. Obviously, we dallied around with James Trafford last summer because of PSR. This summer, we haven't really heard why. Meanwhile, Lucas Chevalier, who was my top pick, of course, if you remember. When did we do the goalkeeper episode? It was at least a month ago, wasn't it? He looks as though he's on his way to PSG. What Donnarumma does, I'm not sure. He's been linked to a couple of clubs. We're never going to get him. So yeah, I mean, for me, there are still better options out there than Ramsdale going forward. I don't know. It's just another underwhelming target to my mind.
Well, let's just set the stall out. It is just gone 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. So, as usual, things might change once this episode is uploaded. But as things stand at the time of recording, Newcastle United are in talks with Southampton to bring Aaron Ramsdale to Tyneside. Initial loan deal with an option to buy, described as paying a hefty loan fee. And Newcastle will to the Saints to get this deal done this summer. 27 years of age. Joined Southampton last summer for 25 million. So he signed a 4-year deal at that time. Former Arsenal goalkeeper, worked with Eddie Howe at Bournemouth. Eddie Howe has mentioned that in a press conference today over in South Korea, but as usual, wouldn't be drawn on speculation to whether he would indeed be a Newcastle United goalkeeper at the start of the season. 183 Premier League appearances, 41 clean sheets, which puts him 62nd on the all-time list of Premier League clean sheets. Again, I'm like you, Sam. I'm not a big fan of Ramsdale. I watched him last season, and there was lots of errors in his game. Now we have to kind of obviously say that he was playing for Southampton, who were one of the most dreadful teams we've seen in the
Yeah,
Premier
they're
League,
awful.
and they would have been in a worse position if he wasn't between the sticks, despite some of the errors he made. There was games where he really kept the score down. I more look at his exit from Arsenal, and I think, Arsenal going for the Premier League title, at the very least going for the top four. That's when Newcastle United want to be. They want to be battling for those honours in the years to come. If he wasn't good enough for Arsenal, is he good enough for Newcastle United?
No, not long term, absolutely not. But I think it's just a case of maybe Eddie Howe, he knows what he's going to get, as you mentioned there. I mean, just to pick up on a few points that you made. Yes, they work together at Bournemouth, so Howe knows him well. Obviously likes the guy, so knows about his character, so obviously sees him as a good fit in the dressing room. The hefty loan fee concerns me slightly because the key word you said there after that was option to buy, not obligation. So if you're paying a hefty loan fee, it could be for what, 10 appearances, and then you send him back on his way if Southampton come back up or whatever. The transfer may not be made permanent, which the option I have no issue with, but if it is just how hefty this loan fee appears to be is the quandary. But I'm just severely underwhelmed. There are better options in and around Europe, which I've mentioned on many an occasion. So yeah, I don't know how if how Newcastle come out of this transfer window with happy fans, because we need another striker with or without Alexander Isak as well. And after going from having Isak and Ekatiko up front, that could now happen, but with Liverpool.
I mean,
It's
look,
it's it's gutting.
it is. The window has not gone to plan. We were very optimistic that it would be a transformational window, and there's still time to make it a decent enough window. Still, obviously, weeks to go yet, and I'm sure that the powers that be over in Saudi Arabia and the Public Investment Fund headquarters are well aware of how this looks, and they most
Are
likely
they
won't
though?
be happy. Well, I mean, you would like to think so. You would like to think so. That's, we don't know for certain. We don't know what their thinking is, but you would like to think that they are looking at what's happened and can see where things need to improve. And look, there's frustration within Newcastle United as well that things haven't gone to plan. But there is still time to fix it. Now with Ramsdale, he's had his moments at Arsenal. He's not necessarily a bad keeper. I think the issue for me is whether he's an upgrade on Nick Pope, and it all comes down to the prices. Really, like you mentioned, hefty loan fee. Whether it's an option or an obligation, obviously that then comes into the thinking. But Southampton paid 25 million for him, 4-year deal. So he's going to have time left on his contract. They're going to want to recuperate the majority of that, you would think. So you're probably looking at least 20, 22 million to turn that into a permanent deal. If it's an obligation, I think that will scare people. If it's an option, there'll be people like you that say, well, what is this loan fee we're paying? But it's just a bit of a, there's lots of questions over this deal. But the one thing that appeases me, that might be the wrong phrase, but it's the trust in Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe has had a long-standing interest in Aaron Ramsdale. And to this point, he's proven himself to be a manager who can turn careers around. You look at Joe Linton, there's other examples. I mean, Emil Kraft, look how good he's become under Eddie Howe. If Eddie Howe can do that to Aaron Ramsdale, then it might prove to be an absolute brilliant deal. We just have to have faith in the manager, but it is one of those deals where that viewpoint, using that Eddie Howe history with turning careers around, it's stretched slightly, isn't it? Because we're kind of grasping.
Yeah, you really are. Yeah, look, he's not a bad goalkeeper. Of course, he's not. Like many of the players we've been underwhelmed by with the links to them this summer. They're not bad players. Of course, they're not. Are they players that can take us to the next level? Is the question, because that's where we should be aiming. Whilst PSR is not as big of an issue as it has been in the past 2 years, I don't think so in any way, shape, or form. And look, I'd rather, if like you say, of course Southampton are going to want to recoup and even make a profit on Ramsdale. Of course they are. So you're entering into, nearly 30 million territory, which is what we would have paid for Trafford. And, all right, Chevalier is going to go to PSG, but the other two goalkeepers I mentioned in that episode we did a couple of months ago, Carsonetti from Atalanta and Antony Trubin from Benfica, would cost similar-ish, I suppose. And even if they're a bit more expensive, it would give you a lot more longevity and higher ceilings and those old adages that make me feel a lot better anyway. Um, I don't know. I think it's just a bit meh, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I did say at the start of the summer that there would be a few underwhelming signings, and I said that with the expectation that we'd have more than one star rival in the bargain. That's my opinion, Anthony Langer. I know you have yours, Sam, but I think he's going to be brilliant. But
He
I always
started well.
felt, well, I hope he is brilliant, and I hope
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
initial
he got the
thoughts are
goal
true.
against Arsenal at the weekend, didn't he? So
Hmm.
positive signs there from Malanga.
But I always felt there would be a few underwhelming signings because the budget isn't endless, and Newcastle United need to build a squad, and most certainly Ramsdale would come under that category. But I think the squad is better for having him and Pope in it rather than Pope and Martin Dubravka. Now, look, we'd all like them to go out and splash 40 million on a top goalkeeper. I mean, we'd have liked it to have been 27, 28 million on James Trafford. It wasn't to be. It's not been a good summer. It's not gone as well as we'd hoped. It's not flowed. It's not been easy. There's a number of reasons for that. This isn't one to get people excited, but it could work out. It really, really could. Someone like how trust, and it leaves budget to be spent elsewhere in other positions which are more of a priority. So if they have to spend 5 or 6 million, whatever it is, getting Ramsdale in on loan, and then you've saved yourself this summer at least, whatever, 20, 25 million, 30 million on a permanent keeper, then you can splash it elsewhere on that centre back, on that forward that you might need, on top of the other forward you bring in if Alexander Isak leaves. So I think there are positives to find in this deal should it go through. You don't look too sure.
Yeah, because he improves the squad, like I said. He does improve the squad as a whole. Does he improve the starting 11? Not really. Well, or just not at all. But yeah, I mean, like you say there, this was such a key window, and our attitudes are completely the polar opposite than what we were when we were talking 2 weeks ago about a potential Ekatike Isak partnership up top and a new club record transfer, which in your words was imminent. Um, and now the attitude is just so deflated and almost desperate. It's not quite Hamza Chowdhury just yet, thankfully. But yeah, this was a big window that so far the ownership have failed, and that as I say, that bridge, that gap between Eddie Howe, who I feel so sorry for, he can't keep performing miracles with threadbare squads. It's not a sustainable business practice, and we're going in to another Champions League season with a threadbare squad, not a lot of strength in depth, and we could end up going to Aston Villa with William Masuda up top, who, yes, looked a handful against Arsenal, but he didn't look a goal threat. He's not ready. He's raw. He's exciting, sure, but he's not a ready-made goal threat to lead the line in a Champions League season.
No, I agree. But that's why, the arrival of maybe Johan Wissa or Benjamin Sesko alongside someone like Ramsdale, it would balance it out. And just the
But then
point
again,
about,
Man United come in for Sesko, and you think, well, if he wants to go to Man United ahead of Newcastle, same as Mbermo, then I don't want him.
hmm,
So, I mean, Sesko would on the face of it be the logical replacement for an Isak, but there's no reason why we can't sign Sesko like we would have done Ekatike and keep both. That would be a statement of intent, and the rumblings are that Isak is underwhelmed as well by sort of business so far this summer, and I can't blame him for that. It has been, it's been shambolic. And look, Eddie Howe wanted this business done early. I mean, we've got such a tough start to the campaign. We could be so far off the pace. Um, and we could be in pretty dire straits in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, not in dire straits in the Steve Bruce era and the Ashley era, of course, but it's all relative to where we now ply our trade, and things need a boot up the backside quick.
They do, but there's still time, and
There is
that's
still
why
time,
I'm not gonna
but the clock is
totally.
ticking.
No, it is, and there's no getting away from it. There's the season starts in a matter of weeks, and ideally, we would have liked to have had the players in by now. Eddie Howe likes them in early, and he's only got Alanga in. But there's still time, and I'm not going to pass my full judgment until that window shuts. If
Yeah.
the window shuts with Alanga, Wissa, Sesko, Ramsdale, and a centre back, and okay, Isak is gone, that to me is not the worst window. That to me is actually quite a good window because you'll also still have money to spend in January off the Isak sale potentially.
Yeah. And obviously with an Isak sale of, 130, 40, 50 million, whatever, then your PSR woes for the next few years are done. You could probably, the shackles would be well and truly off, but then you've just lost one of the best strikers in the world to a Premier League rival, who we just beat in a cup final with Isak scoring what turned out to be the winning goal. And he's now joined the competition, along with Florian Wirtz, Frimpong, Kerkez, Ekatike. Whoa, the Liverpool underdog story just keeps on rolling. But
But
yeah,
Sam, but on that, like losing Alexander Isak is of course a massive blow, and it's come as a bit of a surprise to everybody, probably even to Newcastle United. But at some point, Newcastle United were going to have to sell one of their top stars, whether we like it or not, because of PSR. And I think we just have to accept that that was going to be the case. Unfortunately, we are not at the levels of Liverpool. Yes, we beat them in the Carabao Cup. And yes, I still stand by the fact that if you kept Isak, bought Alanga, and added 2 or 3 other top quality players, then a surprise title challenge might not have been out of the realms of possibility. We're not obviously at
yeah,
that stage anymore. But I think there just has to be an acceptance of where we are now, and of course where we want to be. But Liverpool come knocking, the chances of you winning a Premier League title at Liverpool are pretty high, really, given the window
yeah.
they've
At the
had.
moment, yeah, of
And
course they are. But then from a Newcastle standpoint, there then opens a whole other box of questions for the likes of Peter Silverstone and what's he been up to in the past 12 months, other than putting up prices, putting, loads of having a very good relationship with Adidas, putting out lots of clothing lines to which I fall foul of. Of course I do. I'm only human. Some of that stuff is utter filth, including that third kit, work of art. But where, the questions are, where's this training ground sponsor? Where's this training kit sponsor? Where are all these sponsors that we were, led to believe that were coming? And yet here we are down the line, and nothing has changed too much, particularly over the last 12, 18 months on that side of the football club. So, yeah, it opens a lot of questions. But yeah, we've spoke before about the sale of players, something which Chelsea do very well, Man City do very well. Even Liverpool have done very well to get that fee for Kwanzaa, and they're going to do it with Diaz as well, aren't they? And they want a hefty fee for Harvey Elliott too, and yet we sell St Maximan for way below his market worth. So yeah, that side of things obviously needs to change. We need to be better sellers.
yep, and we do, and this is why Isak goes. We have to get the maximum value for him. But if they manage to get a hefty amount for him, 150 million, and they reinvest it properly, then it actually could prove to be a really good deal. Not one that we wanted to sanction, not one that we wanted to see, but if we can reinvest that into 3, 4 quality players over the next few windows, then actually Newcastle United could come out the other end stronger for the sale of Isak. And That's the way I'm looking at it. And I know you said there's the way back for him. For me, I'm not too certain there is. It's just, as I said on the Money Show, a little bit annoying that it didn't come early in the window, and that would have given Newcastle United a full window, or obviously, or more time to get a replacement in and getting the additions elsewhere that they need. I've asked people on X, Sam, to get in touch regarding the proposed move of Aaron Ramsdale to Tyneside. Notice I didn't say imminent there. I didn't say imminent to avoid
Wish
any
you did.
comeback. Well, look, I'll just explain again. Things change really, really easy. I mean, at the time of recording, we've had Fabrizio Romano saying that that Newcastle already what is he saying? He's saying Newcastle are ready to pay what Leipzig want, and Newcastle are ready to pay what Sesko wants. So there, you look at that and you think, deal's going to happen, sort of thing.
Do you want me to share my opinion of Fabrizio Romano or not?
Let's not. But my point being is that in football, it's a fluid situation, and by the time we get this out, he could be off to Manchester United. You just don't know. Your stories are only as good as your sources in this game. And obviously, I did say Ekateke. I can't even say his name now.
Or what you're
Ekateke
being fed. But anyway,
was
yeah,
imminent, and
look.
I got that wrong.
But
But
yeah,
on
I mean, look,
Ramsdale,
we didn't go anywhere near strong enough for Jonathan David, which was a huge opportunity missed. And then we were obviously gazumped for the likes of Pedro. I mean, we were never in for Cunha. Which obviously we get. People like to embellish like these lists of players that have so-called rejected us this summer, and of which there are a couple of players on there which we know we were never really in for. Um, but yeah, I still think there are some good options in and around Europe. I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that Sesko would be an instant success the same way Isak was. Um, that remains to be seen, and the whole Wissa thing has gone very quiet since Brentford said he's not for sale. So we shall see. And the whole Gehi thing's gone completely quiet as well, because wasn't he on the way to Liverpool?
yeah, that has gone quiet. I've been told that Palace are expecting him to go this summer, and they've stepped up their search for
Well,
a
they were in for
replacement.
Diamande, which of course was my first choice to be that new centre half, ahead of Scalvini, which was the one that came through that we were actually linked with. So it's all if buts and maybes at the moment, isn't it?
It is, and we wait for some solid news on Wissa, on Sesko, but on Ramsdale. Let me just read out what our listeners and viewers have had to say on him. Not impressed, says Mannion, but have faith Eddie knows what he's doing. Sean says, no thanks, marginally better than Dubravka when we should be signing a keeper who's better than Pope. The latest disappointment in an awful window. Jeff says, decent as a stopgap keeper on loan, allows us to use the keeper funds on another position. Dominic says, better than Pope with the ball at his feet, which should allow us to evolve our style in terms of how we build attacks from the back. Eric says, although
Barely.
not a top tier signing, we are all hoping for Pope Ramsdale combo is better than Pope Dubravka. Plus, it lowers the age profile of our keepers. Underwhelming, perhaps, but it will allow us to strengthen outfield priorities and still leave us stronger in goal overall. Get Eric on the show. He knows what he's talking about. Jack, though, says, seems like we're going backwards. Got to go abroad. DJ says, David, says, hard to improve hard to imagine a less exciting deal, but I suppose he would provide competent cover for Pope. Sid says it's underwhelming. Lauren Robert says there's areas of games to improve 100%, but he's a solid goalkeeper. I think he's on par with Pope ability-wise, which is high praise, except he's much better with his feet. Remember when everyone questioned us signing Pope with Dubravka? That one went well, so trust the process. And I guess that's why Eddie Howe, other than knowing Ramsdale, is looking at Ramsdale because he is better than Nick Pope with the ball at his feet.
Is he?
Well, yeah,
Why did he lose his place at Arsenal to Raya then?
Yeah, well, that is. I mean, I suppose the big question is because I don't actually think David Raya is a good goalkeeper. I don't necessarily think Arsenal really improved that position. If I'm being totally honest, and
He's
that
not a
is
worldie, but he's
no.
he's good. He's quite good with the ball at his feet. Yeah, there are many good points in those comments there from our wonderful viewers and listeners. But At some point Ramsdale will get his chance in between the six because Pope will inevitably get injured at some point. It does lower the age, and obviously it hit home when you see John Ruddy get minutes against Arsenal in pre-season. It's utterly terrifying.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I suppose we know Ruddy is staying. He signed that extension, and if Ramsdale was to come in, it would likely mean the exit of Martin Dubravka. They're trying to get Vlachdimas out on loan because they can't sell him because of the PSR hit they would have to take. Dubravka, I mean, that's the assumption. He would go. He obviously was kept at home when it looked like the Trafford deal was going to go through. Didn't happen. Dubravka to
Yeah, he
go.
was going to go the other way, wasn't he? He was going to be
Mm.
involved in some way of that deal, which was interesting. Yeah, look, if he goes with our best wishes. Of course, he's been fantastic for us. Unlucky to lose his place in time for the cup final, wasn't he? But I think it was the right call. But yeah, he's been tremendous for us, and other than a silly little loan spell at Old Trafford, he's been fabulous, and we wish him well.
Come on, then. Give us a positive on the potential arrival of Aaron Ramsdale to Newcastle United. Come on, you can find one. Come on. The silence is not what an audio podcast needs, Sam.
I'm thinking it's a tough question.
27, good age,
Yeah, oh,
Premier League
great
experience.
age. Yeah, man, great age. Look, if he can renew that relationship with Eddie Howe, which, as you said before, can prove very fruitful for players to get the best out of themselves, then we've got a very good shot stopper on our hands, which improves the squad as a whole, and is a good option. Like I say, when Pope inevitably gets injured at some point this season. One of the comments that you read out there saying about stopgap, I think is right, and I think we should have been past this by now. We shouldn't be signing stopgaps this summer. In those key positions, I mean. Yeah, I think there are a lot better options out there, but like say, he's solid, isn't he?
And there's one viewer there said, you trust the process. And again, I say that I'm stretching that quite widely to cover
Yeah,
Aaron
your trust is
Ramsdale.
being tested.
But there is
They've
enough.
earned it.
Yeah, exactly. Eddie Howe has shown that he can do this. Eddie Howe has shown he can revive players' careers. And that is the one thing that says to me this deal could prove to be worth it, that we've seen it before. So not by any stretch of the imagination a goalkeeper I would have on my list. Not entirely surprised, though, that he
No,
is.
it's always been a name in the background, hasn't
Yes.
it, lurking? Not for the first time. He was linked before he went to Southampton, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was strongly suggested that it'd be a name a few months back that anyhow really fancied, and we know he's had a long-standing interest in him. So, not necessarily surprised that we are at this point. I think obviously if Trafford come off, then we would be nowhere near this stage. But here we are because Trafford has headed to there. It had one to watch, no doubt. By the time we upload this, it'll be Chelsea. Will be in for him, perhaps.
Yeah,
That's
that
how it
seems
tends
to be
to
a
work, right?
theme, doesn't it? Every time, yeah, the amount of times you've had to hurry out one of our podcasts because of the vast, quick nature of news changing of late. It's a good job
And
we
Chelsea's
pre-recorded
greedy
that.
hands wanting every player possible.
Well, all I can say is when you went on holiday, it was a ruddy good job that we pre-recorded that midfielder episode.
Yes, it was. And it went down very well. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning into that. Thank you for watching and listening to this one. A big thanks to Saily, our sponsors. If you're going abroad, ladies and gents, and you're worried about staying connected, then Saily is the app for you. It's brought to you by the creators of NordVPN. It is an eSIM with data plans in over 200 destinations. With Saily eSIM, you will always have a connection when needed. It is affordable, it's safe, it's secure. You stay connected and you support the podcast at the same time. For a discount on your eSIM, hit the link in the podcast description box. Sam, thank you very much for sparing the time and popping on to the podcast. Aaron Ramsdale, ladies and gents, nearing a Newcastle United move. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on it. And me and Sam will be back very soon.